So I wanted to chat with you about your piece for the Spectator World on Meghan Markle, which had the resonance and of course respectability to be tweeted out to all of his followers by Perez Hilton. And that's always, of course, a sign of seriousness and something that ought to be respected when it comes to a Hollywood and celebrity-focused piece. Tell me a little bit about how you approached writing about Meghan's relationship with Hollywood.
Well, I think the thesis of my piece was really kind of focused on the celebrity side. I think I used to be a royal reporter, and I think that with the Meghan and Harry story, everybody knows what every royal reporter has to say about everything. But what I really wanted to look at was the celebrity side, which at the time of writing it, I don't think had been done at all, or not covered in the kind of in the way that I wanted to do it. It was kind of bad timing, because from writing it to publishing it, so much stuff happened, like a ridiculous amount of stuff. So when it went out, I was kind of worried that, oh, this kind of looks like it's been done months ago and left, but that was just kind of the period that happened between it. It was a crazy time in the news cycle, I think. But yeah, it was just to look at the fact that everybody knew how Meghan and Harry lost the British public in terms of royalty. But what I wanted to look at was how they had lost Hollywood in terms of being a celebrity. And yeah, I just don't think it was covered. So that's what I wanted to look into.
You know, in terms of the relationship that is going on there, one of the things that I heard during the coverage of the Queen's of the aftermath of the Queen's passing was that far too much of the American media was focused on the Harry and Meghan subplot. Is that something that you agree with?
I think that's true, but I think that it's kind of inevitable. Because the Queen's death was so sudden. I mean, it just so happens that Meghan and Harry were actually in London, which is a miracle, really, because they hadn't been here together for years. And the kind of lead up to the announcement of the Queen's death, there was so much kind of tumultuous events with Harry and Meghan, but I think it's kind of inevitable that they were dragged into it. Harry was, by all accounts, the last to find out. He was the only one that was travelling to Balmoral that didn't get there in time. So I think, yeah, it's inevitable that the American media picked up on that, because Harry and Meghan have felt wronged by the royal family, and I think this is going to be another element that they feel wronged for.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about some of the developments in the recent days. You talk about so much having happened, but you know, one of the things that I think was very front of mind for people coming out of this was what was going to happen with Harry's tell-all book. And you know, what has been reported, of course, is that they're going, not only are they not going to hold back, but that they're going to proceed and that they're going to leave everything in there. Tell me a little bit about that and what's going on with the book situation and what people are interested in.
Well, I've kind of heard two sides. I don't know what you've heard, but I've heard that at first Harry was very much going to go ahead with it and it was not going to be edited at all. And then in recent days, I've heard more that he is going to pull back and kind of make it less explosive. But I don't really think it matters anymore. I mean, one of the things that came from the Queen's death is that it kind of doesn't matter what's happened and what's going to happen. The focus is on the fact that in the lead up to the Queen's death, Meghan and Harry, whether they meant to or not, caused her a massive headache and loads of drama. And that is what people are going to remember moving forward. I don't think it matters now whether they were going to kind of concede and say, oh, maybe we do want to come back, because there was all that talk about whether they were going to try and because they had kind of lost Hollywood, which is what I focus on in my piece, and whether they were going to try their hand at kind of coming back. It's kind of been taken away from them now. It doesn't matter. Prince Charles is very set in his mind that he wants a slimmed down monarchy. He's always been a big advocate for a slimmed down monarchy. He kind of wants to follow the European style of monarchy where you don't have all of these people doing not very much. He wants it to be slimlined. He wants everybody that's a working royal to kind of earn their wage. And it doesn't matter now what kind of feelings and decisions that Meghan and Harry were making in the lead up to the Queen's death. It's completely out of their hands now, which is why I think it just doesn't matter about his memoir, whether it's kind of the tell-all that he was going to make it or whether he's going to scale it back. There's no place for him here. There's no place for her, especially, and that was kind of cemented with the Queen's death. But I think what's more interesting now is not Harry's memoir, but in the past week there's been two books by really reputable royal reporters in the UK with really damning allegations. One is by Valentine Lowe from the Times, and it's called Courtiers. And one is by Katie Nicholl, who is the Vanity Fair royal correspondent, called The New Royals. And I don't know if Meghan thought that this bullying story was going to go away, but it seems that more than anything that it's come back with a vengeance.
Just in terms of, you've anticipated some of my next questions, but the comment from Charles about them wishing them the best or whatever, about them starting their new life in America. I think a lot of people interpreted that over here as being like, well, that's the brush off. That's there's no way of coming back. Is that how it was seen over there as well?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Charles, like I said, has always been the biggest advocate for a slimmed down monarchy. I think the Queen was a bit more passive in the fact that she really loved her grandson and didn't kind of want it to be, the royal family to be broken up in this way. But I think Charles is very much more of a straight kind of cutting edge guy. And if Harry and Meghan want to do their own thing, then that's fine, but there is no place for them anymore. And yeah, I think in Charles's first speech as king, when he did make that comment saying, I wish them all the best, some people saw it as oh, well, he's still being really nice about them. But I think everybody with any kind of royal knowledge knew that that was Charles saying, this is it, you're done. And this is kind of the segregation now.
So your piece obviously focuses on the breakdown of their relationship with Hollywood. Tell us a little bit about what kind of Meghan's ambitions were, what she was trying to achieve there. And what really soured Hollywood on her and on them in terms of what they actually delivered?
Well, I think it's the kind of entitlement in a way that they thought that they could be royals and they thought that they could be celebrity. And I don't know, maybe in the US it's different, but here, being a royal there's no glamour in it. Day to day, it's like I wrote in the piece, it's shaking hands with nurses and going to primary schools to listen to kids sing songs. There is no glamour in it at all. It's a slog. The Queen herself worked like a dog. Princess Anne is known as one of the hardest working royals. There's no glamour in it at all. And I think Meghan expected something very different. I mean, the book Courtiers that is going to be released early next month makes a really damning allegation against the Duchess that she said, I can't believe I'm not getting paid for this. And maybe it's salacious gossip, I don't know, but Valentine has reported it, and he's like I said, he's a really reputable journalist. So I think that kind of sums it up. She thought that she was going to get the best of both worlds. She thought that she was going to be able to kind of captivate the British public, and she did at the beginning. I think that's really important to say. I went back through the archives to do this piece. And everybody loved Meghan. Everybody in the UK loved her. They thought that she was going to be a real breath of fresh air. She was going to come in I mean, the monarchy is kind of old-fashioned, and in some ways it probably should be modernised. And I think people thought that she was going to be the driving force behind that. But unfortunately, she wasn't willing to play the game, which is, we get a few pictures of Archie, we get some interviews, you shake people's hands, and then in return you get favourable coverage in the press, and the British people love you. We curtsy to you. That's what the kind of the game is, right? And she just wasn't willing to do it, and that's fine. But you can't go to the US then and expect to be held in such high regard. In the piece I wrote, that Perez said to me, these aren't our royals, we don't bow to them, we have no reverence for them, we don't curtsy to them. And I think that kind of sums it up, right? Our royals, Americans don't see royalty in the same way as we do, but they wanted the best of both. They wanted to go there and they wanted to be these amazing people that were put on every list and walked every red carpet. And I think when they realised that that wasn't happening, then they kind of cut their nose off to spite their face.
What's your impression of the level to which Harry is complicit in this, or is he just kind of being led around, as the suggestion always recurs?
I think there's so much polarization with this argument that if you say one thing, it automatically means that if you have any criticism of Meghan or Harry, it automatically means that you're a racist and you hate women. And it's just such kind of a reductive, ridiculous argument. And you should be able to criticize people. I don't know what it is with Harry. I mean, throughout the years, people have always said that he's not very intelligent, which I don't know if that's kind of a fair argument. But maybe it's the case that, all of the kind of underpinnings were there. He hated the press from what happened to his mother. He was always kind of a modern driving force in the royal family. He always kind of hated the stuffiness of it. And he always said that very publicly. So I think this amazing, intelligent, beautiful woman has come along and said, oh, follow me. And that's probably what happened. He has got caught up in it all. I think there's been points where he has kind of regretted his decision. I think the thing about the Queen's death is that what it showed is that Harry makes decisions within 10 seconds and doesn't really think about anything. So when they went to Balmoral and Meghan was told that she wasn't welcome to go there, they all had a family dinner and Harry didn't go. He was the latest to get there and the first to leave in the morning. So I think that shows that he's kind of hot-tempered. He doesn't really think things through. And I think that's probably a massive driving force. I've always said that Harry, it's very likely that he kind of made this snap decision to leave the royal family, to leave the only thing he's ever known. And then whether he's regretted or not, he's dug his heels in and he will kind of never admit defeat. And I think it's probably that.
I have heard that there was some attempt and read a little bit that there was some attempt at some kind of peacemaking between them, and that there was something about Harry wanting a mediator to be there or something very LA.
Yeah.
Is this something that is true? Have you heard this? What's the deal with it?
Yes. So the mediator stuff was during the time where they decided that they were going to leave the royal family, and they announced it, and there were kind of blurred lines on whether they had told the Queen or they had not told the Queen. And basically the story is that Harry was really upset that the courtiers who are the royal household kind of took charge, and he thought it was just going to be a conversation with his grandmother, but that's not how the royal institution works. So the courtiers were brought in, and they were what was reported that the Queen had scheduling issues. So we don't know whether that's true. Harry thought that it wasn't true, and Harry thought that the Queen was trying to kind of like avoid the situation. So he said to his father, I want to bring a mediator in. And I read that Camilla, now the Queen Consort, just laughed and said, well, that's totally ridiculous. We deal with things privately in this family. And there's a reason for that. There's precedent for the royal family kind of sorting out family issues as privately as they can, because we've seen what happens when stuff gets leaked and what stuff goes out in the press. So yeah, I think Harry probably did really want to kind of sort it, but in this kind of Americanized way, which is not how the British royal family will deal with anything. I mean, can you imagine a mediator sat in a room with the Queen and Harry and like, it's just kind of ridiculous.
It seems very LA.
Yeah, and I just think that although he feels like he's kind of modernizing and stuff, I mean, there's some things that you probably just can't ask. I think it's kind of a stretch to think that you're going to get some shrink into a room with the Queen and now Charles, who's the King, and Camilla and Meghan, and like, it's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. How does this make you feel? That kind of thing. So there was an interesting thing that happened a couple months back. I was at a rodeo in Dallas, and a pretty big one, and Harry was there, and that struck me as, I mean, it got a little bit of coverage and that kind of thing, but it struck me as odd that he was there. I don't really know why he was there, but it also was kind of interesting because nobody in Dallas, at a rodeo cares about Prince Harry. Yeah. Like, I mean, they don't. That's like they would be more excited about the Dallas housewives being there than Prince Harry. And so it's one of the things where, like, why does he do things like that? Is it just kind of wanting to become more Americanized, or is there some other explanation for it?
I think he thinks that what I try and talk about in the piece is how there's a massive difference between celebrity and royalty, because royalty, like them or not, it's a lifelong kind of reverence. It's a lifelong name recognition, lifelong notoriety in a different way that celebrity is. I mean, they went to LA, they had a few front pages, and then everything kind of subsided. They were getting invited to loads of different parties, and then after a few weeks, of course it subsided. I mean, you're only as popular as the next front page, right? And then it moves on to something else. And I don't think that they were prepared for that at all, because the UK as a country is so obsessed with royals. There's always something in every paper every week about them. And as much as Harry and Meghan supposedly want privacy and want this quiet life, they don't, and they can't afford to live without it. The reason that they're doing these Netflix and Spotify things is for money. Entertainment business pays in Hollywood, and that's kind of all they have now. So I think that, they're turning up to these kind of trivial things that you wouldn't expect them to turn up to, and I don't think it's because Harry really enjoys the rodeo. I think it's because he's trying to get some kind of coverage from something. That shows from when, I mean, they moved to LA for a quieter life, and then they've got a camera crew with them at every turn. That's not an accident. It's what they've planned on.